dispersed across the country today, who have issues around access to power, who almost can't access startup capital as small as 100,000, for example. And then we're still looking at bottlenecks in the ease of doing business chain. So these are issues that we need to deal with as quickly as possible. In the last couple of weeks, I've taken out time to talk with people on and off television about what their expectations are. Some of them have pointed in particular to what they believe is the president's strong point. That is his ability, they say, to be able to pick the right men for the job. And they're quick to make reference to when he was Lagos State governor between 1999 and 2007. But the big question is, between 2007 and today is 16 years. Is it still the same Tinubu of Lagos that we're seeing as president in terms of his ability to get the right team together to deliver on whatever his vision is? Some persons also will be quick to reference some of the very critical decisions that he has made between May 29 and today. It's been, in particular, 1 month since he took over realms of leadership in this country, and they say those decisions are a pointer to what Nigerians should expect in terms of quality of governance, and then a drastic change from where the country is coming from in the last 8 years. But let's see how much of perspectives we can find today. Looking at the national dailies, let's see what the big stories are. We'll begin with the Daily Times with a big story right there on the front page that says, military authorities give 100 generals 96 hours to retire. The spirits are invoked to become president. That's Tinubu there talking. Feared bandit leader Dogo Gudali killed by own device. Major shakeup hits Nigerian Navy. Okay, that gives us a basic idea of what's happening within the defense and intelligence space right now. Of course, there are new chiefs of staff. So those who are high above them have been given 96 hours, up till Monday, to resign so we can have things moving in that direction. Okay, so we'll look at the Punch quickly for you. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper, the headlines just above the nameplates. External reserves fall by let's see what the figure says. $3 billion in 6 months, with a picture of the acting CBN governor there, Mr. Shonubi. CBN injected $18 billion into forex market in 2022. That's reports. Naira redesign couldn't stop my victory, says Tinubu. Service chiefs, military orders generals to retire, gives Monday deadline. With 2 riders there, CDS directs officers above course 39 to tender retirement letters. Directive meant to uphold hierarchy, service discipline. That's DHQ now trying to put up a defense for this action. Abdulrazak lists socio-economic benefits as Ilorin Durba holds. Subsidy removal. Federal government saves 400 billion naira in 4 weeks. That's a whole lot of money. But then it's a reminder that Nigerians need to follow the money, because the government already, in a manner of speaking, had put its hands on the plow when under this very federal government, talking about the leadership of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, promised that all the monies realized from the removal of fuel subsidy would be channeled into majorly 3 critical areas: education, infrastructure, and then issue of economy. But let's see other headlines for you here quickly. Lagos courts acquits woman charged with assault on policeman. Naira devaluation will increase raw material import costs. That's Manufacturers Association. They're talking. Remember, just 2 days ago, that was on Wednesday, they had also raised similar concerns around the proposed power tariff hike that we hear, all else equal, will take effect starting from July 1, which happens to be tomorrow. But then we move on with the review. Let's take a look at New Telegraph for you this morning. Let's look at the nameplate just right above the nameplate. CBN to roll out 187.1 billion naira maturing treasury bills today. Tinubu to Nigerians, endure, I'm in no hurry to fix the nation. Promises positive change, calls for unity, notes he's currently taking baby steps of pain, says he invoked spirits of a Milonko to win election despite cashless policy. Buhari asked Tinubu not to investigate him. That's Shehu there talking. DHQ gives service chief seniors Monday deadline to resign. Protocol Palava Adeleke surrounded by incompetent aides. Basiru is the one talking there. Study sweetener aspartame could be named a possible carcinogen. You can read up details of that on page 7 of today's issue of the New Telegraph. So let's turn quickly, everyone, to Blueprint newspaper now. Okay, then there's a big headline, as always, on the front page of Blueprint. It says, Tinubu to Nigerians, let's go through baby steps in faith. With 3 riders there, says cashless policy or not, my victory at 2023 poll was sure. I know what it means to be a refugee. God spoke through your Emelokon Awujale, okay? And then beneath, just right beneath the nameplate, it says CBN directive on bank customer social media handle illegal, NPDC. Explosives kills Zamfara bandits kingpin, Dogo Gudali. You find details of that story there on page 6. Okay, in football, that would be called own goal, right? That is a man who has been in the news for the wrong reasons for a long time, and now we hear he has taken his own life by his own device. 11 killed, 8 injured in Benin-Lagos Express crash. This is just at the foot of the front page of today's Blueprint newspaper. Ogala reshuffles top officers in Nigerian Navy shakeup. Subsidy removal, best FG policy ever, says PDP. Okay. Hot steps to hike prices of commodities services, Afenifere tells the federal government. Okay, let's take a look at Leadership Friday. The big story first, it says, citing gains of reforms, Tinubu asks Nigerians to endure baby steps of pain. Naira now undervalued after free float to Bank of America. Dangote is still richest man in Africa with $15.6 billion. That's according to Bloomberg. We'll keep our fingers crossed and see what the Forbes will say. I think sometime later in the year. Let's see what the elements are in this particular rating right now. Okay. Airports in North operational despite insecurity. Opposition senators oppose Tambuwal as majority leader. We see the tussle on that front, basically between the Wike group and the Atiku Abubakar faction of the People's Democratic Party. I mean, for those who thought the rivalry between former governor of Rivers State, Wike, and the candidates, the presidential candidate, that is, of the People's Democratic Party in the just concluded 2023 elections, was over, probably in for a whole lot of drama, because over these, with regards to the minority leadership of the House, of the Senate, it will appear there's one more bridge to cross between Governor Wike and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. So let's see a few more headlines on Leadership Friday before we move on. Okay, Catholic bishops reject Christian religion education bill. You also want to read up details of that story for yourself this morning on page 16 of Leadership Friday. And then we'll turn to this day before we follow the money on business day. Let's turn to this day now. It says, WSJ, aftermath of failed mutiny, Putin moves to seize control of Wagner's global empire. That's a special feature on the Wall Street Journal for today, so you want to take a look at it. Tinubu, despite ineffective cashless policy, I knew we would win presidential poll. Apparently, that's replicated across news dailies this morning. The president exuding so much of confidence over his persuasion he was going to win the presidential election. Presidents are unified forex to save Nigeria from financial crisis, which also points to one of his key areas in the inaugural speech when he said monetary fiscal policies need house cleaning. I think that cleaning process going by what the president has continually said, has already begun. So on a final note, we'll take a look at Business Day for you, all right? So that's where we get to follow the money on the newspaper review segment on the show. Above the nameplate, it says Tinubu's next big move is fighting crude theft, Bank of America. So that's a special read I encourage you to look at. Okay, baby making racket exploits Nigerian women. It's a big story on Business Day. Demand for dollar-priced properties seen returning on new FX policy. Nollywood soars as 5 Nigerians join Oscar Academy. Dangote retains Africa's richest title with $15.6 billion. That's according to Bloomberg. We brought you that just a while ago. U.S. Closes easy admission path for Nigerians, others into elites universities. You'll find that on page 31. U.S. closes easy admission path for Nigerians, others into elite universities. So you're wondering what happens to those Nigerians who are desirous of just showing up, for want of better words, at Ivy League colleges in the U.S. So this obviously will not be so much about whether you can afford it. It's going to be about how the policy around admissions into the big league, as I'd like to call it, has been reviewed, and it appears this is a drastic move. But let's see how it turns out. There's still very prestigious schools across the world, including here in Nigeria. So the options are pretty much right in front of you. That's all for the papers. Do well to look at them for yourself today. Read details and then stay ahead of your game this weekend and beyond. We're taking a quick break. When I return, you'll meet my guest and we'll put the discussion right in front of you. Stay with us.
I am for everybody, I am for nobody. No. In another way.
How are you sure, sir?
I am in another way. I am for everybody, I am for nobody.
The only area where Buhari defeats for that statement, now only appointment. When you're talking about project, the project spell at fault. If you need to spell at fault, what does it mean? But if you say appointment, and in a type of appointment, you appoint people in front.
Like what the man
I'm ready to say that whether I did that, I did not. You know, I'm ready to go to where they get the position first.
why una no come win APC? Why una no win
Get the in our
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. In the last couple of days, conversation has been rife. In fact, we've seen tension soar on account of the proposed tariff hike for electricity consumers across Nigeria. We know how exciting it is for the discos, that is the distribution companies, when issues around tariff hike are being discussed. But then we understand there are a couple of fundamental dynamics to this, amongst them being that whatever the proposed hike is, the president will need to review and then sign off on it just yet. In fact, one of the discos has even come out officially to debunk that, as they now call it, rumor that, well, there's no truth to any proposed, the story around proposed hike, tariff hike, that is within the electricity space. But then it's not the first time we've heard about this. There was rumor about it in 2022, and then we also had that happen in 2021. But what exactly is the concern that Nigerians have, and how exactly should tariff hike for electricity be done? What is the best practice? We understand there's a 2-year kind of arrangement that allows the discos to review and then revert to the president for, if you like, assent. But again, it's a bit more confusing for Nigerians now than it was even last year, especially for a country that is, beyond everything else, more concerned about having stable power. There's a gentleman in the studio with us this morning to help us make sense of this very, very turning issue on the show this morning. I'm joined by Bode Fadigbe. He's a lawyer and power sector expert. You can say he's a power sector pundit if you like, but basically he's here to help us create perspectives and establish context for this conversation. Buddy, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers.
All right, so I'm not just going to have you, ask you the reason we don't have, if you like, uninterrupted power across the country, but I want to talk to you about the dynamics associated with billing. Growing up, we had meters. It was normal for you to see that meter that would spin around. You see numbers exactly.
Electromechanical.
Meter, exactly. Even though we didn't understand how it works, how the calculations were done as kids, but we did understand that it would determine what your dad paid at the end of every other month. But then we've seen so much of evolution happen in the power sector, and that has also led to the kind of meter we now use. Around that, we've heard people talk about meters not being available, their houses not being metered, the politics around metering. I'm going to bring that up at the tail of, at the twilight of this discussion. But I want us to focus more on billing. How is billing done? Why is billing so complicated when it comes to the power sector or electricity?
Well, by now, it shouldn't be as complicated as it was in the days that you made reference to. That was in the days of National Electric Power, the defunct National Electric Power Authority, where electromechanical meter was used. Put it in a very simple language, manual meter. So why is it manual? Somebody comes to the metering point, he looks at the figure on the meter, like your speedometer in your car, at the point of buying fuel, and after you come back, what number of kilometers have you covered? What amount of fuel did you use? You convert that to Naira with the multiplier. So that was what was happening then. And it was not without its own challenge, because a marketer is expected to go around several houses. Human fatigue will set in, his brain will be, his eyes may not even pick the figures, the meter may be in a different place, and he may not even get access to the meter. So you have door-locked premises, you have inaccessible meters and several, the meter may have even been damaged. So that is about the genesis of estimated billing, because a customer has consumed electricity and he has to pay for it. Now, estimated billing will come as a result of no meter at all, or the meter was supplied, but after usage for a period of time, it has become damaged, or the meter is not even accessible at all, but electricity must be paid for. So, but we have grown substantially, not even substantially, perhaps exponentially. We have grown to the point where we can, and technology has also grown to the point where you can have smart meters. So the meter can take its own information. Apart from that, what you just need to do is to buy your credit and feed your credit into the meter, just like your phone, and feed your credit. So once you exhaust your credit, the supply is cut off. But we also have situations where for certain categories of customers, you still have to go and reach them physically. For instance, industrial customers, you still have to go and reach their meter. So you have a mix of both the prepaid meter and the postpaid meter. You have a mix of those two meters. So that is what is currently on ground right now. I don't expect that we will have so much complications in terms of billing, but those complications are there majorly because, one, some customers don't have meters and they still have to be billed, which brings back the issue of estimated billing. Some customers bypass their meter. Some customers have faulty meter. Ultimately, what is there is that once a customer is on the database of a DISCO, of a service provider, he must pay for the electricity. Otherwise, he will be starving the market. The market is made up of a value chain, and every member of the value chain is expected to get a little out of the pie. The Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trader, NBET, and every other ancillary service provider. And then the main value chain itself, generation, transmission, and distribution. They have overhead costs.
they will pay staff salary, they will invest in the network by way of bringing in poles, bringing in conductors, bringing in cables, bringing in transformers, building injection substations, doing so many things. It is one singular source of income. They don't have another source of income by which they get money to provide all of these services that they are providing. The transmission people, transmission itself is about 3 arms. Transmission has the market operator. Transmission has the TSP, transmission service provider. Transmission service provider majorly deals with those high tension lines, those towers, the physical materials, the materials you can behold with your hands, you can touch them, you can feel them. ISO, independent service operator, system operator, independent system operator, ISO, which the new act has given the power to become a full-fledged company registered under CAMA through CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. They are the ones that handle the load allocation, so they can determine